The night was cruel and the desert winds held like lost spirits. The moon hung low over the canyon, bleeding pale light across the red sands of Arizona territory. Somewhere between the cliffs, a young cowboy named Luke Tanner reined in his horse, hearing something strange, something not human, not quite animal either. A scream, not just any scream, a woman's. Luke froze for a moment, hand tightening on the reins. Then he heard it again, closer this time, desperate, terrified, echoing off the canyon walls. Without thinking, he dug his spurs into his horse and galloped toward the sound, heart pounding like gunfire in his chest. He found her by the creek, a young Apache girl cornered by a pack of snarling wolves, their yellow eyes blending like fire in the darkness. Her back was against a boulder, her knife flashing as she tried to hold them off. Blood streaked her arm where one had already torn into her flesh. Luke didn't think. He drew his rifle and fired. One wolf dropped, then another. The rest turned on him, growling low, fur bristling, fangs bared. His horse reared, whinnying in fear. Luke leapt down, grabbing the rifle with both hands, firing until the chamber clicked empty. Smoke curled around him. The wolves scattered into the shadows, their cries fading into the distance. For a long moment, there was only the sound of his heavy breathing, and hers. When he turned, she was staring at him, eyes wide, fierce, and wild. Even in the half-light, he could see she was beautiful in a way that didn't belong to this world. Hair black as midnight, skin like copper warmed by the firelight. She stood barefoot, trembling, knife still clutched in her hand. He took a step forward. "You all right, miss?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at him like a cornered animal, unsure if he was another kind of danger. Then, finally, in a voice low and hoarse, she said, Why did you save me?" Luke hesitated, didn't have time to think. Seemed the right thing to do. She lowered the knife, her eyes never leaving his face. Then, almost whispering, she said, "You shouldn't have. Now you're mine." Luke frowned. "What?" The girl stepped closer, her breath uneven, her eyes burning with something between gratitude and fury. "Among my people, when a man saves a woman from death, she belongs to him. But when a white man saves an Apache girl," she paused, voice trembling, "the spirits say she must belong to him forever, or haunt him until he dies." Luke blinked, unsure if she was serious or delirious from fear. "I wasn't looking for a wife tonight, miss." Her lips twitched, not quite a smile. "You have no choice." The wind whipped between them, stirring dust and leaves. Somewhere far off, a coyote howled. Luke glanced at her again, uneasy. "You got a name, Kaya," she said, "daughter of Chief Nanton." That name made him swallow hard. He'd heard of Nanton, leader of one of the fiercest Apache bands in the territory, known for burning out settlements and ambushing soldiers. Luke Tanner had just saved the chief's daughter. "Reckon you should get back to your people," he said slowly. "It's not safe out here alone." Her dark eyes flickered. "I can't. They cast me out." He frowned. "Cast you out? Why?" Kaya turned her face toward the firelight, her jaw set. "Because I refused to marry the man my father chose. He was cruel. He killed my brother." Luke felt something twist inside him. He'd known men like that, men who used strength to break others. He nodded toward his horse. "You can ride with me, till sunup. I'll take you somewhere safe." Kaya hesitated. "And where will that be?" He sighed. "There's a trading post 2 days east. Folks there won't ask questions." She looked at him for a long, silent moment, then said softly, "You don't understand. The wolves were not the only ones hunting me." Luke froze. "Who else?" Kaya's voice dropped to a whisper. "My father's men. They'll come. They never fail to find what belongs to the tribe." He felt a chill crawl up his spine. He didn't know why he cared, but something in her voice, something trembling and fierce, made him say, "Then they'll have to go through me first." Her eyes glinted in the firelight. "You mean that?" He nodded. "Then," she said, stepping closer, "you're mine now too." By morning, the sky burned gold and crimson over the desert. Luke rode with Kaya behind him, her arms around his waist, her breath warm against his back. She didn't speak much, but when she did, it was in words soft as falling dust. They camped by a river that night. She gathered herbs, cleaned her wound, and moved with quiet grace, like she'd lived her whole life in rhythm with the earth. Luke watched her from across the fire, unable to shake the strange pull he felt. He'd been alone most of his life, ever since the war, ever since the ranch he'd built was taken by a rich cattle baron. He didn't trust easily, but something about Kaya unsettled him, like she saw through the dust and gunpowder and found the man buried underneath. "Why do you keep looking at me?" she asked suddenly, without lifting her eyes. Luke blinked. "Didn't mean to." She smiled faintly. "You think I'm dangerous?" He gave a small laugh. "Maybe. You're right," she said quietly. "I am." He frowned. "How so?" "Because the spirits sent you to me," she said, her voice low. "And they don't send men to women unless there is a price." Before Luke could reply, a sound broke the silence, distant hoofbeats. "Many of them." Kaya's head snapped up. "They found us." Luke grabbed his rifle, eyes scanning the horizon. Dust rose on the far ridge, moving fast. "How many?" he asked. "6, she said. "Maybe more." He cursed under his breath. "We can't outrun them." Kaya's hand gripped his arm. "Then we fight." Luke stared at her. This girl, barely 20, eyes blazing like wildfire. He'd fought men, soldiers, outlaws, but never alongside someone like her. "Stay low," he muttered, loading his rifle. The riders came fast, their faces painted, their shouts echoing through the canyon. Luke fired, dropping the first one before the rest scattered, circling. Arrows whistled past him, one grazing his shoulder. He gritted his teeth, fired again, then felt Kaya beside him, bow in hand, loosing arrows with deadly precision. She moved like the wind, silent, fierce, unstoppable. One by one, the riders fell or fled. When the smoke cleared, only 2 lay dead, the rest vanishing into the desert night. Luke sank to his knees, breathing hard. Kaya knelt beside him, her hand on his bleeding arm. "You shouldn't have fought for me," she whispered. He looked at her, half smiling through the pain. "Guess I don't learn easy." She tore a strip of cloth and pressed it to his wound, her fingers trembling. Then, before he could speak, she leaned in close, her voice barely more than a breath. "You're mine now," she said again, but softer, like it was no longer a threat but a promise. They found shelter in an abandoned mining cabin deep in the mountains. Days turned into weeks. Luke's wound healed, and Kaya stayed, cooking, cleaning, mending his shirt with her small careful hands. But every night, she'd walk out under the stars, whispering in Apache to the spirits of her ancestors. Luke watched her sometimes, wondering what she prayed for. One night, he followed her outside. "Kaya," he said quietly, "when this is over, when your father's men stop hunting, what then?" She looked up at the sky. "Then I return to my people, or to the earth, whichever comes first." He swallowed. "And me?" She turned to him, eyes glistening in the moonlight. "You saved my life, Luke Tanner. But the price was your heart." He took a step closer, their faces inches apart. "Then maybe it was worth the trade." For a moment, the world held still. The desert wind died, the stars seemed to watch. And then she kissed him, soft, fierce, and full of every secret the wilderness had ever kept. But peace doesn't last long in the West. A month later, Luke woke to the sound of gunfire. He ran outside to find the cabin surrounded, dozens of Apache warriors, their torches burning bright against the dark. At their head stood Chief Nanton himself, his eyes cold and hard. Kaya stepped forward. "Father, stop. He saved me." Nanton raised his hand. "He took you. He defiled you." Luke shouted, "She came with me willingly." The chief's eyes flashed. "Then die with her." Before he could raise his rifle, Kaya moved faster, placing herself between them. "No," she cried. "If you kill him, you kill me too." For a long moment, the chief stared at her. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. "Then you are dead to me," he said, his voice breaking. "Go, live with your white man. The desert will judge you both." The warriors turned and rode away, their torches fading into the night. Kaya stood trembling. Luke put a hand on her shoulder. "You all right?" She turned to him, tears in her eyes. "No," she whispered, "but I'm free." He took her hand. "Then so am I." Years later, travelers passing through the desert sometimes spoke of a ranch hidden high in the mountains, where a white cowboy and an Apache woman lived side by side. They said no outlaw dared cross their land, that wolves roamed near but never attacked, and that at night the sound of drums echoed faintly through the wind, songs of love and war and promises kept. And if you listened close enough, They said you could still hear her voice in the breeze, whispering the words she'd once told him beneath the bleeding moon.